Well, I was tired of being played with, so I sat up in bed, fist raised, and was prepared to give my roommate a punch in the arm. But when I got up, nobody was there. When I went to the door, it was still locked from the inside. Hey guys, Scary Stories here. I hope you're doing well. Tonight, I have a special video for you. This one's all about strange paranormal activity going on in people's houses. What makes it special though, besides it just being a video by me, is that I have a special guest reading their own story tonight too. Beck from Ponchmonster Studios is going to be recounting her own paranormal story. I've wanted to collaborate and work with other YouTubers for a little while now, so I'm really excited to get somebody on here. I've made sure to save her story for the end though, so make sure you stick around. So, this first story's called Basement Spirit, and it was sent in to a website all the way back on August 27th, 1997. I guess this person just goes by BLT, bacon, lettuce, tomato. BLT begins. I moved into a little house in San Marcos, Texas with a friend of mine. The landlord was a nice, older man and was very helpful about getting us moved in. We had more stuff than space would allow and saw there was a large, locked storage area beneath the house. Now, basements are rare in Texas due to the bedrock, but this house did have one. We were told to stay out of the basement, with no explanation as to why. A few weeks go by after getting settled in, and we begin to hear noises from beneath the house. We thought back to not being allowed to see the basement, and we got curious. Did we have a critter problem? Squirrels, raccoons, what have you? We called pest control anyways, and they came by, but they said we were remarkably clear of any pests that we could have had. They didn't see any droppings or tracks from even an insect population, which, if you're from Texas, you know is unheard of. I mean, the guy said we didn't even have so much as an ant on the premises. We thought this was due to the excellent cleaning crew or the meticulous housekeeping of our landlord, but it didn't explain the noises we kept hearing. Well, on several occasions, I would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like I had a bad dream. I'd wake up and remember my dream, and I didn't have a bad one. Just had that lingering, heavy feeling like I did have one. The times I woke up with these weird, phantom bad dreams, I'd see my roommate was up too, and that he couldn't sleep as well. On one occasion, I woke up to somebody saying my name. It felt like somebody was in the room, and it sounded like my roommate, so I thought maybe he was in there because I had a phone call or something. Anyways, I rolled over to see what he wanted, but nobody was in the room. My roommate wasn't even home. I mentioned this to him, and he reported the same occurrence, but thought that I was just playing a joke on him. Well, whatever. I began locking my door at night, just to feel safe, but it backfired. I was laying in bed again, and heard my name. I could hear the air conditioner running in my room, and it blowing directly to my bed, only I wasn't getting a breeze. The breeze had stopped as if somebody was standing between my unit and the bed. Well, I was tired of being played with, so I sat up in bed, fist raised, and was prepared to give my roommate a punch in the arm. But when I got up, the breeze hit me, and nobody was there. When I went to the door, thinking that my roommate had dashed off, it was still locked from the inside. I opened the door and went to the living room, but my roommate wasn't even home. I called him at work and I asked if he was expecting any friends to come over, to which he replied, no. Unable to sleep, I called a friend and spent the night at her house. Nice. A few weeks passed without incident, and then late one night, I was awoken by somebody pounding on the foot of my bed. I have a waterbed. This really is from the 90s. And I could feel the ripples of the mattress and hear the slap from the impact. But when I sat up, nobody was there. Again, my door was still locked from the inside of the room. Unable to sleep secure in my own home, I opted to move out. I never did get an explanation as to what was going on in the basement, nor did I ever get an explanation for why the entire premises were bug-free. Some things remain unexplained, and perhaps even unrelated, but at least I can sleep soundly at night now. In my childhood home, I would often hear typing coming from the downstairs computer room early in the mornings. I didn't think much of it at first. My parents work from home, so it would not be uncommon to wake up in the mornings to one of them typing away at the computer. One day I got out of bed and called out to my mom, assuming she was down there working as I could hear typing. No answer. Nobody was down there at all. This began happening quite often. I figured I was so used to hearing typing from downstairs that I was just starting to hear it when it wasn't there. So I didn't mention it to anyone, figuring I was just going a bit crazy. This happened on and off, over a period of about 6 months, I'd say. The sound of fast typing and fast, furious clicking of a mouse, as if somebody was frustrated. One morning, I was eating my breakfast when I heard Mom at the top of the stairs call out to me, "You're not down there on that computer already, are you?" I froze and ran out to her. I was shocked that she heard it too. She was convinced that she could hear typing, yet nobody was down there. I told her all about the times that I could hear the typing down there, and then my sister opened up about hearing it too, when she thought nobody was down there. So I guess I wasn't crazy after all. I set out to try and catch whatever was causing this typing noise. I needed to try and at least come to some sort of rational explanation for it. I would sprint out of my bedroom to the top of the stairs where I was able to look down into the room and see if anybody was at the computer. But no such luck. I think this all went on for at least a couple years, and we just learned to live with it, as the typing didn't happen every day. I was down there once when the ceiling lights in the center of the room began flashing very fast, strobe-like even. It then exploded, and the glass went shattering all across the room. And I was pretty lucky I didn't get hurt. I ran out of there as soon as the flashing started happening. I felt and heard this really sharp intake of breath right behind my shoulder, near my ear. I've never ran so fast in my life. Prior to that, the typing thing had just been this weird, spooky phenomenon. It wasn't scary at all. But now it was kind of freaking me out. Makes my heart race when I think about it today. And I've never really encountered anything like this before or since all those events. I don't particularly believe in ghosts either, but I'm open to the possibilities of something out there. Something that we might not have a proper explanation for just yet. Okay guys, I saved the best one for last. This story's from Beck over at Ponchmonster Studios, another YouTuber here who reads some really good stories. The link to their channel will be in the description below. I hope you enjoy.
This happened to my sister and I when we were pretty young. I was between 6 and 8, and my sister, she's 2 years younger than me. We lived in a haunted house for about 2 years. It was only very recently that my dad finally told me the reason we moved was actually because of all the activity that was happening in the house. Now, this house we moved into was old. It was built in the 1920s at least and needed work. My dad's a carpenter and had built so many houses over the years. Renovations were nothing new to Mum and Dad. What is it that they say about renos? That it can awaken the ghosts or entities that once were in the house. Now, I don't know the history of the house, and trust me, I have looked it up so many times, and there's not really a lot I can actually find. One thing I have found is that no one lives there for very long, and that quite often the house sells for a very low amount of money. I don't know about you, but that just screams haunted. Now, this house felt off to me, especially the rooms further towards the back of the house. 3 rooms in particular were horrible, and I felt afraid to go into them, even in the daytime. It was so much worse at night. I remember feeling dread every single night the sun went down. My sister and I experienced several things in this house with the paranormal, which I have shared on the channel before, but this one has stayed with us. It is by far the worst thing that ever happened. So this old house had a wine cellar, which was accessed from the backyard. This wine cellar also happened to be directly underneath these rooms that made me feel uncomfortable. The overall layout of the house was off and just felt wrong, like things were in the wrong spot. I was a kid, so I figured it was normal. So we were down there in the cellar playing with our dog Pebbles. Now, for the layout of this cellar, it was fairly big. My dad had knocked out a wall down there too, making it more open. There was an opening on the south side, which was the entrance, and on the west side was a wall of bricks with the decorative holes in them so light would filter in. The cellar itself was divided into 2 rooms. The first section was where we were playing with our dog, and the second, which had a wall with a crawl space that led into underneath of the house and each room. This was to gain access to the wiring to the heated flooring. So, as I said, we were playing with our dog when all of a sudden I remember feeling quite uneasy and the need to just look up, and there in the dark area of the cellar stood a large figure. This figure was almost like the outline of a really big man, but I couldn't properly make out any features. Our dog was barking and my sister and I just stared at it. We were terrified. We somehow knew it wasn't a person, and the fear that I felt was like nothing I had ever felt. Even thinking about it now sometimes scares me. I froze and I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't say anything. I just stood there with my sister. Now, I have spoken to her recently too, and she said she remembers it having yellow eyes. I remember the height and the outline of its shoulders. The most terrifying part was the way it looked at us. It gave us the most terrifying grin. It was like it wanted to hurt us. We stood there staring at its grin, and to this day, neither of us can get it out of our head. It tilted its head back as if it gestured with its head and then moved its hand like it was trying to beckon for us to follow him further into the darkness of the cellar. My little sister grabbed me and we ran out of there. I don't think I would have been able to move if it wasn't for her. It was the scariest thing that happened to us while we were in that house, and I was glad when we moved 2 years later. What we saw and felt that day scared the living shit out of us. Since then, we've always referred to it as the demon in the cellar.
Well, what did you think of all those? As I was reading the scary computer keyboard story, I was wondering if faulty wiring could be to blame. I mean, part of the story itself is the strobing light bulb that explodes. That would definitely have something to do with the electricity. Maybe it was making the computer or the light itself make clicking noises that sounded like typing. Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed the stories tonight. I love to see your guys' comments, and I'd really like to know what you think about the collaboration tonight. Would you like to see more stories from other narrators on here? Definitely let me know. Give me some feedback, and check out Beck's channel if you got a sec. You won't be disappointed. But yeah, that's all I got for you tonight. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. And I hope you have a good night. I hope you're taking care of yourself and treating yourself well. Alright. See you in the next one. Bye for now. The sound of fast typing and fast